There are many possible writing games, and I have already introduced some in the previous 3 videos, and also in the series of videos on phonics games. So I will just give an overview of some possible games here, and won't go into many alternative versions of each of these games. Labelling. The children can label things around the room. One of the best ways to do this is to use post-its. They can also stick labels on big pictures or on pictures in books. Where appropriate, the children can be encouraged to label things around the room at home, as long as the parents agree. Making posters. The children can draw or paint posters and write labels or other text on them. For example, they can make posters of fruit, the zoo, seasons, a place they know well, Christmas, a TV program, or anything like that. Or they can make posters for an upcoming event in the school or in the city. Image story writing. Either give the children various pictures, or they can choose pictures. The children put the pictures in order and write a story or series of sentences to connect to the pictures. This game can be played either individually or in groups. Speech bubbles or thought bubbles. The children can look at pictures, photos, or cartoon strips, or draw their own pictures, then draw speech bubbles or thought bubbles, and write what they think people or animals in the pictures are saying or thinking. Word challenge. The teacher can write letters on the board, or the children can select letters randomly by drawing them out of a box. The children then try to write as many words as possible by combining these letters. The game usually works best in teams, with the children helping each other to write words. Complete the grid. Draw a grid like this on the board. The number of rows and columns you use depends on how much time there is. Divide the class into 2 teams. Teams either take turns to choose a square or throw something at the grid. When a child chooses or hits a square, she writes a word in the square with the help of her team. The starting letter for the word is the letter on the left, and the finishing letter is the letter at the top of the grid. You can either give the children freedom to write any words they like, or make a game rule that the words need to contain one of the letter combinations that you write on the board. You can also add extra game rules, like having 3 chances to hit a square, or getting a point or scoring a goal for making a row of 3 squares. Song gap fills. The children listen to a song and fill in missing words or sentences. It is important to use songs that contain language at an appropriate level for the children. After the children have filled in the gaps in the song, they can sing it. Treasure hunt. The children hunt for letters to spell a word, or hunt for words to make a sentence. The letters or words can be hidden around the room. For example, a child could look at a picture of a banana, try to find the letters to spell the word, and then write the word. Or a child can look at a picture and then try to find words to make sentences about the picture. Alphabet treasure hunt. The children write the alphabet down the side of the paper. They then move around the room trying to find words starting with as many of the letters as possible. To make this easier, you can hide pictures around the room that include things that start with various different letters. Instead of writing the whole alphabet, you could dictate a few starting letters, or dictate sounds such as R or E that the words need to contain. Paper chain stories. Either the teacher or one of the children writes a sentence on a piece of paper and passes the piece of paper to one of the children who writes a second sentence, and so on. There can be more than one story circulating at the same time, so as to keep all the children involved. The children read out the stories at the end. If the children are not ready to freely write sentences, or if you want to practice particular language targets, there can be prompts on the pieces of paper or on the board, such as in the example in this slide. Writing Pictionary. The first child writes a sentence as in the previous activity. The second child illustrates the sentence and folds over the original sentence so that the next child can't see it. The third child writes an appropriate sentence for the picture and folds the paper to hide the previous picture. The next child draws a picture to illustrate the sentence, and so on. As in the previous activity, there can be various pieces of paper circulating at the same time. Tiddlywinks. In this game, the children use a larger counter and press down on the edge of smaller counters, so as to flick them onto cards, or onto a board with letters, sound combinations, or words written on it. When the children land on a letter, sound, or word, they write it down on a piece of paper or in a notebook. The aim is to collect letters and spell words, or collect words and make sentences. Galaxies. One child writes any word in the middle of the board or on a large piece of paper and draws a star around it. The next child writes a word she associates with the first word, draws a star or planet around it, and draws a line from the first star to the new star or planet. The next child writes a word she associates with any of the other words, draws a star or planet around it, and draws a line to the associated word. The stars or planets can be in all sorts of colours. This activity can lead into the idea of mind mapping in preparation for a story. Each child starts with a word in a star and builds up her own galaxy of associated words. She then tells or writes a story based on the associated ideas she has built up. Bingo. The teacher can dictate words for the children to write in bingo grids, or the children can choose which words to write from a larger selection of words provided by the teacher. When the children make their own bingo grids, each child chooses where to write the words, so that each bingo grid is different. Relay spelling games. In these kinds of games, each team races to spell a word letter by letter, or write a sentence letter by letter or word by word on the board. The children can race to the board, write a letter, and then race back and tag another member of their team, who then races to the board. Making an album. The children can make physical or digital albums. At the first stage, each section of an album can be of words that start with a certain letter. At the second stage, each section can be of words from the same phonics families. At the third stage, the sections can be based on themes with each item labelled. We can either give the children clear guidance, or we can give the children a lot of freedom to create their own albums as a homework project. The children can collect categories of words over time. The themes could be farm animals, pictures of their hometown, famous places around the world, cartoon characters, or anything like that. They can draw pictures of the items they collect, or paste photos or pictures into their albums, and then write appropriate words or sentences. Writing diaries. I usually start by giving the children pictures of what familiar characters did or will do on different days of the week, and the children write sentences about each picture. The children then make their own personal diaries with pictures and sentences. Sorting words. In these games, the children try to make sets of words that start with a certain letter or are from the same phonics family. One way to do this is to throw something at vocabulary pictures, and when they hit a card, write the word in the correct category in a grid. Other ways are to search for words in a big picture or search for words around the room and write them in the right place in a grid. Mastermind. One child secretly thinks of a word and stands at the board. She draws dashes to indicate how many letters there are in the word. For example, in the case of horse, she would write 5 dashes. The other children guess words. The child at the board can draw a circle for a letter in the correct position in the word and an X for a letter in the wrong position. Secret messages. Secret messages can be addictive. I have had classes demanding secret messages every lesson. If you look at this example, you'll see that the letter B is in a square with the number 8. This means that the children need to put B in all the other number 8 squares. The messages can be long or short, though it is best if they are long enough to have a meaning that is interesting for children to discover. As in this grid, I just fill in a few of the squares. If the children get stuck, I may have to let them know 1 or 2 more letters later. Extended writing. This workshop is on teaching writing to beginners. As the children get more confident with their English, they can gradually do more extensive writing activities like writing letters or writing journals, writing and illustrating stories, and much more. I hope you found these videos on writing for beginners helpful.